Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We use products every single day, but have you ever stopped to think about what makes you choose one product over another? Like, is it just about looks, or is there something deeper going on?
Hmm, that's a fascinating question.
Well, today we're going to crack open this book, The Aesthetics of Product Design, and we're going to really try to figure out how aesthetics, how that look and feel of a product actually influences us in a bunch of ways we probably don't even realize.
It's funny you should say that because so many people think aesthetics is just about making things pretty,
Yeah, like just the surface level, right?
but it goes so much deeper than that. It's a whole sensory experience. I mean, how does a product look? How does it feel? And how does it even make you feel when you use it? All of that is aesthetics.
So it's kind of like you could see a picture of a really cool, like, sports car and
Mm,
be like, wow, that's amazing.
right.
But then actually, sitting in it, feeling the leather of the seat, holding the steering wheel,
That changes things.
it's a completely different experience, right?
It really is. And I think our source uses a great example, the iPhone. You think about it. The sleek design, the smooth curves, that premium material. All of that works together to create this feeling of desirability. It's like you're holding something luxurious.
And maybe even justifies that price tag a little.
Maybe. Yeah.
But it's not just, like your iPhones and high-end stuff. I'm sure we can all think about something like in our kitchen,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That we bought because it was a certain color or just looked cool, right?
Absolutely. It's everywhere. So let's actually break down some of these core elements of aesthetics that designers use to create these really desirable products. Our source actually outlines four key categories: shape, color, texture, and materials.
Okay, so let's start with shape.
Yeah.
That seems like the most basic, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, so much more. So shape can be about functionality, visual appeal. There's a lot going on there. Take, for instance, the Volkswagen Beetle, right? That's like an iconic shape.
Not only is it kind of playful and fun, but it actually contributes to its aerodynamic efficiency, which is really cool. Or even something as simple as, the mouse that you use for your computer, right?
Right.
That's designed ergonomically so it fits your hand. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of thought that goes into that shape.
So it's comfortable for hours of use.
Exactly.
Then there's those kind of sleek, futuristic curves of a Tesla, for example, that just scream innovation and speed, right?
Exactly. Shapes can convey so much about a brand, like its identity. It can even kind of tap into our, subconscious desires a little bit.
Interesting. Okay, so then we add color to the mix.
Ooh, color.
I know I've definitely been drawn to things just because of their color.
Me too, me too.
But how do designers actually use color strategically? Is it just what's trendy, or is there a deeper science to it?
Oh, there is a science to it, and it goes beyond just, hopping on the trend train. Think about, fast food chains, for example.
Mm.
They always use a lot of red.
Yeah, I never noticed that. That's not an accident, right? Red is associated with excitement, urgency, and believe it or not, it can even increase your appetite.
That makes total sense.
It does. And then you think about colors like blue and green, which are often used in places where you want people to feel calm and tranquil, like a spa.
Right, like a doctor's office or something.
Yeah, or a healthcare facility. So it's fascinating how a single color can really shift the mood and the feeling of a product or an environment.
So we've covered shape, color. What about texture? That one I feel like gets overlooked a lot, but it can make such a difference.
Yeah, texture is all about how it feels, the tactile experience.
Right.
Think about the difference between the smooth, cool touch of a metal laptop
Okay.
versus the warmth and softness of a natural wood table.
Yeah,
Each of those textures evokes a different feeling, right?
it really does. Like, I find myself gravitating towards things that are like wood and leather and stuff because
Yeah.
they feel more authentic, I guess, and kind of have that craftsmanship that, maybe you don't get with a synthetic material.
Totally. And that kind of ties right into our last element, materials.
Yeah.
The materials used to make a product say so much about its quality, its intended use, the overall aesthetic. Like you said, those high quality materials often signal luxury and durability.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a cheap plastic water bottle and then a beautifully crafted glass carafe. You know,
Right.
it serves the same purpose, but it's just elevated.
It's that whole experience. And then, of course, you have this whole rise of sustainable materials, like appealing to a whole new segment of consumers who are very environmentally conscious.
Totally.
So things like bamboo, recycled plastics, organic cotton, they're not just like good for the planet, but they often bring these really unique textures and aesthetics to the table as well.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got shape, color, texture, materials all working together to create this like symphony of aesthetics.
Yeah.
But what forces are shaping these choices, right? Like, are designers just following trends, or is there something more to it?
Oh, that's a great question. And that's where things get really, really interesting. You have these cultural influences, technological advancements. There's even this historical inspiration that all feeds into, what we find aesthetically pleasing at any given moment.
So it's not just about what looks good, it's understanding like the deeper context behind those choices.
It is.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into those forces.
Let's do it.
All right, so you're about to tell us about these forces, like all these different things that are shaping these aesthetic trends, right? Like cultural influences, technology, you even mentioned history. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think culture is a great place to start because, culture has such a huge influence on what we think looks good, right?
Yeah.
And what's cool and what's not can change so quickly. So designers are always trying to tap into these cultural currents, these trends that are happening.
Okay, so can you give us like a concrete example of how cultural trends have actually impacted, product design?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the whole rise of eco-conscious consumerism. It's not just a fad anymore, right?
Yeah.
This is a core value for a lot of people. And so that's led to this huge demand for sustainable products, which in turn has totally influenced design aesthetics.
So we're seeing like a lot more products made from recycled materials, natural fibers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. The whole aesthetic has shifted towards minimalism, which is very much inspired by Scandinavian design. You see these clean lines, simple shapes, and it's all about functionality rather than just, lots of bells and whistles and ornamentation.
Yeah, it's all about being like simple, sustainability, a connection to nature.
Exactly. So it's really interesting how that aesthetic reflects a deeper change in values and priorities.
Totally. Okay, so then you mentioned technology. How has like technology changed the game when it comes to how things are designed?
Oh, technology's been a game changer for sure. New manufacturing techniques, things like 3D printing, have given designers so many new possibilities. Imagine being able to create these really complex organic shapes that, you couldn't really manufacture before using traditional methods.
So instead of being like limited by mass production, you can
Mhm.
create like these really unique, customized pieces.
Exactly. 3D printing allows for such intricate details. You can personalize things, you can use unusual materials. It's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible aesthetically.
Wow, that's super exciting for designers, I bet. Like it's a whole new toolbox to play with.
Totally.
So, okay, that's how designers thinking about it, but how much do like consumer preferences actually play into this? Like the people who are actually going to be using the products?
Consumer preferences are, they're essential, right? Designers can't just create in a bubble. They have to understand what people actually want and need. And that's where market research comes in. Designers are constantly studying trends, seeing how consumers behave, trying to figure out what's going to resonate with people.
So it's this like constant back and forth, right?
It is.
Between designers and consumers, each one kind of influencing the other.
It's a dynamic relationship. And sometimes those consumer preferences drive the trends, and then sometimes designers introduce new ideas, and that shapes those preferences. But it's not always about chasing the latest trend, right? Sometimes it's about tapping into something a little bit deeper, like a sense of nostalgia or a connection to the past. And that's where historical influences can really come into play.
Like when certain like vintage styles make a comeback or something.
Exactly. Think about the enduring appeal of Art Deco. This design movement, which came about in the 1920s, still inspires designers today. You see it everywhere. Furniture, lighting, fashion, graphic design. Those bold geometric shapes, those rich colors, those luxurious materials, they all still feel relevant and exciting almost a century later.
It's really cool how like certain aesthetic principles can just like transcend time and still connect with people.
It is.
So we've got cultural trends, technological advancements, consumer preferences, historical influences, all these things shaping product design. It's a pretty complex equation.
It is. And it's happening in every industry you can imagine,
Yeah.
Fashion, automotive design, home decor, technology, even just the packaging that things come in. So are you ready to see these aesthetics in action? I've got some really cool examples from the real world to illustrate all of
I
this.
have a good real-world example. Lay it on me.
Okay, well, let's start with fashion. Have you noticed like the huge rise of athleisure wear?
Oh, absolutely.
Brands like Lululemon and Nike, they've really perfected this blend of like style and comfort,
Yeah.
creating clothes that look good whether you're at the gym or just running errands.
I think it reflects our lives now, right? Like, we're
Mhm.
so busy,
Yeah.
we want clothes that can keep up with us no matter what we're doing.
Exactly. And designers have responded to that demand, and you see this whole new aesthetic that prioritizes both style and performance. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about cars. Tesla's a perfect example of how design can really reflect a brand's values and innovation. Like,
Right.
their cars are known for that sleek, futuristic aesthetic.
Yeah, it's very much in line with their whole focus on, like, electric power and cutting-edge technology.
Exactly.
And they've really, like, disrupted the industry with their design and technology.
They have.
But it's funny, even though we're so obsessed with the next big thing, some classic designs never go out of style, right? Like, think about the Volkswagen Beetle.
Oh, yeah.
It's been around forever.
Mm.
But that rounded shape, it's
Mm.
playful, it still has that charm.
Yeah, it's a testament to just good design. Good design transcends trends. Okay, so we've talked about clothes, we've talked about cars. Let's bring it home, literally. Let's talk about home decor. You mentioned Scandinavian design earlier. Why do you think that aesthetic is still so popular?
I think it's because of that emphasis on simplicity, natural materials, functionality.
Right.
It creates a sense of calm
Right.
and like serenity in a world that feels honestly kind of chaotic sometimes and just like overstimulating.
It's true.
And then brands like IKEA, they've made that aesthetic so accessible.
You're so right. Scandinavian design really speaks to that desire for a more balanced and mindful life. It's about creating spaces that are both beautiful and functional, where every object has a purpose. And speaking of functionality, let's talk about technology. I mean, the design of laptops, smartphones, smartwatches, it's become so sophisticated.
Mhm.
And it's not just about cramming in as many features as possible. It's about creating these sleek, minimalist devices that almost feel like an extension of ourselves.
Yeah, like the design itself is part of the whole user experience.
It is.
Think about like the MacBook, that thin profile, the aluminum body. It's beautiful, but it's also functional.
Totally.
Uh.
And designers are always pushing the boundaries, right? They're creating devices that are thinner, lighter, more powerful, but still maintaining that like sleek and sophisticated aesthetic. And then you can't forget packaging. I mean, we're surrounded by products all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how those products are presented, that packaging, it can really make or break whether we even consider buying something.
Just like the first impression,
It is. Like, think about Burt's Bees, for example. Their packaging is so unique and colorful. You see it on the shelf and it just pops out at you. And it also reflects their commitment to natural ingredients and sustainable practices.
That's a great example of how packaging can like tell a story about the brand.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Fashion, cars, home decor, tech, packaging.
It's a lot.
It seems like aesthetics are like truly everywhere,
They are.
influencing us in ways we probably don't even realize.
Yeah, it's true. And as we move into the future, these forces that shape aesthetic trends are just going to become even more complex, even more interconnected. It makes you wonder, like, what's next for design? What new aesthetics are going to emerge? How is technology going to change how we think about what's beautiful?
Those are some big questions. I'm ready to tackle them.
Yeah.
What do you say we dive into the future of aesthetics for our final segment?
Let's do it.
All right, so we've kind of broke down all those elements of aesthetics. We've talked about what shapes those trends. We've even seen how those play out in all different kinds of industries.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the big question is, what does all this mean for us, right? Like, for everyday people, how can we use this knowledge to make, smarter choices about the products we buy, the things we surround ourselves with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway here is that aesthetics, they're not just about, superficial beauty, right? It's much more than that. It really impacts our experiences, how we feel, even our well-being. So once you understand that language of design, you can start to make more conscious choices about what you bring into your life.
It's like being more aware of how design is, like, subtly influencing you,
Yeah.
your decisions and stuff. But like we talked about before, design's always changing. What do you think the future of aesthetics holds? Like, what new trends, movements could we see popping up?
Oh, that's where things get really exciting, right? I mean, our source really focused on the present, but if we think about all the things we've talked about, like those trends, we can start to imagine some pretty wild possibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about virtual reality, right? Like
Yeah.
that's becoming more and more mainstream. How's that going to impact how products are designed?
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, imagine designing for a world where, the line between physical and digital is kind of blurred, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see this whole new aesthetic emerge, something that like prioritizes, I don't know, like sensory immersion or creates this feeling of presence in a virtual environment.
Totally. And then you've got artificial intelligence,
Oh, yeah.
which could really personalize aesthetics in ways we can't even imagine right now. Like, what if algorithms could analyze your preferences and then generate designs that are made just for you based on your taste?
That's like having a personal designer in your pocket.
Right. And it could completely change how we shop and how we interact with products.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got VR, we've got AI, and we can't forget about, sustainability. That's only becoming more important,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
As people are more eco-conscious, we'll probably see like even more innovative ways of using sustainable materials and even more emphasis on like that circular design, where things are meant to be reused and last longer.
Yeah, for sure. I think aesthetics and ethics are going to become even more intertwined. It'll be all about, beauty and responsibility.
That's really cool to think about. So it's not just about these huge technological leaps, right?
Right.
Designers are also drawing inspiration from like nature itself.
Yeah. There's this really interesting concept called biomimicry.
Oh,
It's basically mimicking the forms, the processes, the systems that you find in nature.
so products that are like inspired by the elegance and efficiency of nature.
Exactly. Imagine products that can like self-heal,
Yeah.
or seamlessly integrate with the environment. The possibilities are endless.
That's amazing. So for our listeners out there, what can they do to kind of stay ahead of the curve, keep their design senses sharp?
Honestly, just stay curious.
Okay.
Don't just accept designs as they are, Ask questions, explore different aesthetics, challenge your own ideas about what you think is beautiful or functional.
Like be a lifelong learner when it comes to design.
Exactly. And pay attention to the world around you. See what trends are emerging, how different cultures, different communities are expressing themselves through design.
It's about becoming more aware of that language of design and how it's constantly shaping like everything around us.
Totally. The more you understand about aesthetics, the more you appreciate like the thought, the intention, the creativity that goes into the products we use all the time.
So as you go about your day today, take a second to notice the designs that grab your attention. Think about all the things we've talked about, right? Like shape, color, texture, materials. And remember all those influences like culture, technology, history. How have those things shaped those designs?
Yeah, and remember that aesthetics are so much more than just a trend that comes and goes. They can really make our lives better, inspire us, even connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Ah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of aesthetics. It's been fascinating.
It is my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, the beauty is in the details.